Hi, I'm Chris Kelley, owner of California CycleWorks and founder of DucatiTech.com. Welcome to our new high-definition format. This will be a new thing for Ducati Tech videos, a water pumping Ducati. It's a 4-valve head. They all have liquid cooling, so you see a radiator, and there's all kinds of plumbing on the other side of the engine. And the oil cooler's down here. The block is about the same, and then it's got twice as many cams. This bike did have a belt change recently in miles, but it's been, I think, 3 or 4 years. So we're doing the every 2 years or 12,000 miles. And so it's the 2 years part we're doing. We'll take this moment to talk about our new ExactFit branded timing belts. They're made by an automotive belt manufacturer, so they're exactly the same specifications and standard as the OEM belts. So we have these for the 9 family Testastretta superbike motors, 749, 999, and the 998. Coincidentally, it might also be the S4RS. The part numbers are in here. Obviously, we skipped ahead a lot. The first step is to remove the 2 side fairings. There's a quarter turn fastener at the front, or the quarter turn fastener at the front and at the rear. You have to use a hex key. There are 2 quarter turn fasteners in the middle and 2 screws on the bottom. You remove all those, the fairing comes off. You can do the same for the other side, and then you have to have an assistant because you have to lift the bike off the side stand as the side stand goes through the fairing. And that's just the start. The next step is you remove the 2 screws here that hold the seat, and then there's 2 more that hold this tail section. You pull off the cover in the front, and then there's the 2 hoses, and you work the tank back and up. You undo the 2 fuel lines, and then you pull the pins out of the frame. And then the tank, seat, and tail section, all as an assembly, can be removed from the bike. For 3 of the belt cover bolts, a special hexagonal bolt that's threaded on the top to accept another screw is used. These are used in positions like the charcoal canister, and there are 2 of these for the horn. When I loosened the outer bolt, the inner one turned with it, so you need to come behind the whole thing with a wrench to hold that while you loosen the screw. Remove the screw, remove the bracket, then remove the bolt. You'll notice on the 4-valve motors, they have much bigger tensioning pulleys. Ducati came up with a new method of tensioning the belts. We're still using the old world method of putting a cylinder at top dead center and then testing with the sonic method on the belts. This was the same method as used originally when this engine came out for the 996 Ducati. That's the 996R model that has the same Testastretta engine. The first step in all this is that you, quote unquote, line up the dots. With the Testa engines, the dots don't really make sense, and that's too bad. The dot in the drive in the middle of the V, that does make sense. However, if you look at either head, the other dots or timing marks for the pulleys are in all kinds of wacky positions. However, you do notice that at top dead center, the cam waves line up perfectly. So in this instance, you'll need to make your own marks on the pulleys for your timing belts so you get the timing correct when you put it back. Here you can see the mark left over from when the last time the belts were changed. These marks only line up one time. So the first time you turn the engine, these start traveling around. don't let this scare you when you're going back to check your work. You turn the engine over once or twice. These marks will line up, but these will be all askew. So like I said, don't worry about that. It's okay, it's normal. And then to go on more about the marks and marking the belt, you can count the number of teeth from the dot in the drive pulley to the mark you make, then from the mark you make to the other mark you make, and then back down to the middle of the drive pulley. So you see all 4 cam sprockets have this mark on the sprocket itself. I didn't actually do this last belt change. Someone else did that, and the owner made those marks for us. You'll need a crankshaft turning tool, a 13mm wrench to fix that to the end of the crankshaft, our paint marker to mark the belts. You need a 12mm wrench to handle the lock nuts on the tensioning pulleys. The Testastretta Superbikes have a bit of a large nut on the tensioning pulley, and so we're going to use a crescent wrench, otherwise known as a metric fit-all. It's nice and crude, so that should appeal to many of our audience. And a spark plug tool. You have to remove the spark plugs in order to use a crankshaft turning tool. That was also a bit of a procedure. The additional tools, you need a cheap computer microphone, guitar tuning software. You can download this for free. We provide the link upon request. And we're using open source Linux operating system, which can run the Windows program just fine. So there's no excuse for not having this set up, maybe perhaps only if you don't have one of the $2 microphones. Okay. Place marks now. Thankfully the old marks are kind of crusty, so we'll be able to tell the difference between theirs and ours. And then we mark that inner vertical drive belt after removing the horizontal. You loosen the tensioning lock nut. And then you can back the tensioner all the way off. I only loosened the nut enough that would allow us to change the tension. I suggest for my own personal bikes to only reuse these once. This has only been on one time. The way Fuji lock nuts work, they have great resistance the first time, 2/3 of the resistance the second time, and then from the third time on, it's the same as a regular nut. Unlike on the 2-valve motors, the Testastretta uses the pulleys in the middle to locate the belt, not the drive sprocket. So the drive sprocket and the sprockets on the cams are without the outer shield. Just like we did on our last video, we're going to place our mark 3 teeth up from where the dot is. 1, 2, 3. It's that one. You have to remember to transfer the new mark once we remove the belt. Now, with the crankcase vent tube removed, we'll ease up on the lock nut. This is the same procedure as the other cylinder. You back off, tensioning pulley. Notice that the intake cam immediately changed position. That's because the vertical cylinder is 90 degrees past top dead center, and it begins opening the intake valves to draw in the breath for the next stroke.